Hey, everybody, welcome to another live episode of Secure the Seat Live. My name is Minda Harts, and I am your host. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. You're already part of the squad. If you've been rocking with us since, I started the podcast in 2018, and then we went to LinkedIn on 2020, you are family, you are part of the squad. So regardless if it's your first time or your 100th time, thank you for joining us, because you could be anywhere on the internet right now and you're here with us. And so I'm excited for today's conversation. First of all, put in the chat, let me know how your weekend was, because if you're watching us live, then you're coming off a weekend. Hopefully it was good. Hopefully you did something that made you smile. And if you're watching the replay, then you chime in the chat too. Primarily, our viewers are on LinkedIn, but we have people watching us on Twitter, on Facebook, and YouTube. And so we just want to make sure that we hit all the different spots, because we appreciate wherever you watch. And if you are excited as I am today, and I don't even have to tell you too much about her, because I'm sure you have her books in your bookshelf. You've given it to friends. I know when I was early in my career, there weren't a lot of business books that I resonated with. And when I got my hands on Sally's books, it just so much opened up for me in terms of leadership and in terms of just how I saw myself in the workplace. So one of my favorite books that I was introduced by her is How Women Rise. And so who I'm talking about, Sally Helgesen. Okay, she is a renowned thought leader, a best-selling author, a trailblazer, and I'm sure she sits at a whole bunch of other intersections that we'll find out more about today. But I'm just excited to be able to have this conversation, because I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do today if it wasn't for the voice of Sally, if it wasn't for the courage of Sally. And so I am very just honored that I get to have a conversation with her today on how we rise together, because at the base of everything, there's a lot of chaos in the workplace. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of mistrust. And the one thing we need is, our success is not a solo sport. We have to do this together, okay? And so it can't be just, me and my people. It can't be just you and yours. We all have to make the workplace better than we found it, and we get to do that together. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Sally to the stage. Hi, Sally. How are you?
Hi, Minda. Wonderful to be with you and your tribe, your squad, as you put it today.
Well, it's such an honor. I mean, I'm internally fangirling, because I don't always get to interview my heroes in the space and in the genre. So just for those who may not, I don't know if they've been hiding under a rock, if they don't know who you are, please tell them a little bit more about you in your own words.
Sure. I'm Sally Helgesen, and my focus for 35 years has been women's leadership and inclusive leadership, starting with the book, The Female Advantage, Women's Ways of Leadership in 1990, which was the first book that looked at what women had to contribute as leaders rather than how they needed to change and adapt. So I have been in this field, marking out new territory, trying out new ideas, and speaking to groups all over the world, really since the very late 80s. So I've watched a lot. I've seen a lot.
Oh, I would love to. I can't wait to hang out in real life, Sally, because I'm sure you have so much to share and so many things and lessons learned. So I just hope that I could get the privilege of having an impact on the workplace and in the world as you have. So again, thank you for all you do. And if you don't have her latest book, we're dropping it. Just get all the books, okay? We're dropping we're dropping the link in the chat so that you can have that. But Sally, you've been doing this work for a very long time. You were one of the first people to write about inclusion in the context of the workplace back in 1995. What has changed in the years since?
Well, it's been really interesting. Yeah, I wrote the book, The Web of Inclusion, published in 1995, which was the first book to use the language of inclusion in regard to business and the workplace. What has changed was, number one, inclusion got paired with diversity. When I first began writing about it, I thought of it as a useful concept for leading organizations, given the changing nature of the technology. But within about 3 or 4 years, organizations had made the pairing. We were all talking about D&I, now DEI. So that was a very big change. In my view, the pairing was precisely right, because people who are not part of the historic leadership mainstream are the most likely to feel in some way excluded. And we know that. We know that they don't have that sense of being included when they talk about their organization as they rather than we. So we have a pretty good benchmark for judging that, or when they feel that they are valued for their contributions, perhaps, but not for their potential. So it's a great pairing. And since those two started to be hooked together, I've done so much work in the space of inclusive leadership, and it's been amazing to watch how it has evolved in the last few years. And this is why I wrote Rising Together, my new book, because I really wanted to get back to this topic. It's more important than it's ever been.
Oh, that's the truth. Let me tell you. And if you don't have that book, we're dropping it in the chat. Make sure you get it. It's a necessary read. If you care about making the workplace better than you found it, you need this book in your toolkit. Okay. And so let's talk about the new book, Sally. Rising Together, you identify 8 common triggers that can undermine our ability to connect with people across gender, racial, ethnicity, sexual, and age divides, or whose history and values may differ from our very own, which that happens every day, right? We come across people like that each and every day. Can you talk about a few of these triggers?
Certainly. For example, one of the triggers is visibility. We're triggered by visibility when, for example, we feel that our contributions aren't necessarily noticed. We may feel uncomfortable talking about them. We may feel that other people are kind of sucking up all the air or getting credit for ideas that we may have originated. We may have had the experience, quite common, of saying something in a meeting, evoking not much response, and then somebody else reframes it in a certain way, and everybody goes, oh, what a great idea. So all those things trigger us in terms of our visibility. And this is completely understandable. It is human. Triggers are environmental. They're not a bad thing. We are triggered by all kinds of things in our environment. The problem arises when we are triggered and we then sort of default to a narrative about, oh, well, that other person's such a showboat, or, you know, they're always talking about themselves. I don't do that. I'm uncomfortable doing that. So I'm a better person or a nicer person or whatever it is. When we default to those narratives to kind of make ourselves feel better and then possibly bond with other people based on those, then it really keeps us stuck in that narrative. So trying to create a different kind of narrative around it is helpful because, for example, with visibility, we want to learn from people who are good at this. It doesn't mean we have to do it like they do. You know, somebody might say, oh, I had that client eating out of my hand. And we might feel more comfortable saying, I feel that I really bonded with this client, but we want to be able to. This is absolutely necessary. And for anyone who perceives themselves outside of the leadership mainstream, we need to bring visibility to what we achieve and what we contribute. We've got to find a way to do that. And when we're triggered, that provides us with a kind of cue that it's important for us to move forward with this.
That's so good. Here at Secure the Seat, Sally, we have what we call tambourine moments. And if I was at in my other office, I would hit my tambourine because I just it resonates so much, and we all want to be visible, right? We all, I mean, that is probably a trigger that most of us have. If you say that you don't care about being seen or whatever have you, you're probably like lying to yourself, right?
I've even heard authors say, I don't really care if my books sell. Oh, really? What are you wasting your time for? You know, we want to influence the world. We want to persuade people. It's not just a question of getting credit. It's also a question of being effective. And so it's very important to learn how to do that. And, you know, Minda, when I do workshops, one of the questions I always say, I put up a poll, what triggers are most active for you? And we put up visibility, managing perceptions, fairness, communication, humor, et cetera, et cetera. And visibility is always comes in either number one or number two. The other one is fairness, so they sort of shift around. But it's really interesting how big an issue that is for people.
Absolutely. And I love that you talk about that because whether you're, much of our audience is women of color or people of color, but we have some really great, managers and allies that are on the calls too. And regardless, I know when I'm out in the space having conversations, whether you're a white man or you're a Latino woman, everybody wants the visibility. That is something that we want. And we can say, well, some groups have more visibility than others, but internally that person may not feel that, right, that they're getting that visibility at all times. So two things can be true at the same time, right?
That is exactly true. And the important thing, I mean, one of the things, like, for example, in the US, because I do a lot of work all around the world, so if you talk about white men, it doesn't make any sense if you're in Japan or Korea. But I'll put it this way. Those who are part of the historic leadership mainstream, which in the US is basically mostly white men, they feel comfortable claiming that visibility. And we often, as women, we may have had pushback, well, you sound pretty aggressive. Very common thing with Black women or women of color is, well, you seem pretty angry, that kind of stuff. So that's not great, but guess what? Our job is to persevere. Our job is to continue to try to bring visibility and attention to what we contribute, even if we get pushback. The first is more important than the second, because guess what? People change their mind over time. I'm sure you've had that happen to you. I remember once being in a meeting and making a point. I was quite young at the time. I was the only woman. My boss's boss was there, and he said, well, you certainly don't seem to have a problem expressing what you think. And I just kind of said, no, I don't. And about 2 months later, I heard him saying to someone, what I like about Sally is she doesn't seem to have any trouble saying what she thinks. Guess what? People get used to us and change their minds. So we don't want to let ourselves be triggered in a way that undermines our ability to get the attention that we need for the good, hard work that we do.
Oof, that's so good. I know that people watching right now are like up at their faces at the screen, Sally, because they're like jotting like, got to get the book. You want more of this? Get the book. Okay.
Thank you.
To kind of stay in a similar vein, but kind of, switching gears a little bit, there's a lot of companies that are visible in a lot of different ways these days, right? And so one company, Levi's, they recently made a decision to use AI models instead of hiring diverse ones. And Levi's obviously probably isn't the only one doing that, but that, we see that in the media. But what lesson is to be learned here, Sally?
I think that trying to outsource and do diversity on the cheap, which is what the basic aim is, by using AI. It may be an investment now, but they're thinking down the road, we can fire a lot of people and save a lot of money by having this application or this, mental robot do this for us. It's a terrible idea in my view, because when we try to outsource things that require refined thinking and real judgment. We can't do that. Machines cannot do that for us. And there, as organizations try to hire more diverse people, if they take too data-centric an approach, well, this person checks the boxes on this, that, or the other, they're not going to really get good matches. And I think it's a negative trend. I anticipate some car crashes of the kind that self-driving cars have had, or self-driving space launches have had. I think it's a very, very poor idea. We need to learn and approach the hiring with an open mind rather than feeding in a bunch of data and expecting good results. There is no way that a machine can be inclusive. It just is not going to happen.
Yeah, it totally takes away emotional intelligence, right? Something we've been talking about.
Exactly, right. Oh, let's teach a machine to be emotionally intelligent. No, guess what? They don't have emotions. That's not going to happen.
Yes, exactly. I love the way that you say that. And I wholeheartedly agree that if we're getting it wrong in real life, what makes you think that,
Exactly.
that's a machine?
Giving up. Yeah.
And
It's called giving up.
Exactly. And listen, most of you are watching on LinkedIn right now. Tag somebody in the chat because maybe your company is talking about these things right now. Let's not get lazy with equity in the workplace. Let's do the job. Let's make sure everybody's valued in the right ways. And like you said, self-driving cars, whenever I see them, I'm in LA and I see these cars, I get out of the way. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I rather have that human there that understands what the workplace needs, what it feels like to going back to the triggers. When triggers happen, understanding what those look like and everything else. So thank you so much, Sally. Any final words about just your new book, what people can expect, who you wrote it for? And then I hate that we have to jump into our bonus questions, but I know you have tons of things going on in your day, but I'm glad we can give people this little Sam's Club sample of what to expect in your latest book.
Sam's Club. Love it. Yeah, part of the reason that I wrote Rising Together is I felt that there wasn't enough of the how in how we are doing diversity in organizations. I've been to too many conferences and sat through too many speakers and too many workshops where people say, let me share my leadership model with you, or, here's the reason this is important. We've been talking about why it's important for 15 years, at least, at minimum, probably for 20. So if somebody doesn't get it now, it may be a while. But what I hear over and over is we're not sure how to do this. And so I'm trying to take a very, very practical approach to the how in diversity, whether it's for ourselves, our own policies and our own behaviors ourselves as individuals, or whether it's for companies. So we're not talking a lot about, I might have, this idea, this approach, this bias, etc. That's helpful to know. But then now what? You don't want all aha moment, no, now what? So I'm trying to provide the now what in terms of both understanding how to manage what may trigger us in a very honest and frank way, and also sharing inclusive behaviors that I have seen work well to build the kind of bridges that are so important to having a workplace that works for all.
Yes, amen to that. Sally, again, thank you so much for all that you do. I want to jump into our bonus round. I normally ask my guests every week what their favorite rap lyric is, but I'm gonna save this one and give you the opportunity if you have a favorite quote or just kind of a mantra that you live by and why.
The mantra I live by is circle of concern, circle of control. That is, what am I concerned with, and can I control it? So being able to distinguish what I'm concerned with and what I can control is the sort of rubric I use to make sure I am effective. I talk about it a bit in the book, the idea of circle of concern, circle of control. So that's what I do, because I notice a lot of people getting very upset about things that they have zero control over. Let's pour our energy into where we can be effective.
You know, when I read that part in the book, it really hit for me. And I have these sticky notes all over the place in my office. And because that's the piece of the puzzle, right? There's so much that we can control. And instead of like spinning my wheels on the things that I can't, right? So thank you for that. We all need to like inhale and exhale that mantra for our life. My next question for you is, every person watching today is a leader. They don't have to wait for their manager to tell them in a one-on-one or give them a promotion. We get to activate leadership right now at any time. What is one piece of advice you would give everyone on how to leave the workplace better than we found it?
I think ask other people questions to find out how you can be helpful to them. This can start on day one. It can start in your first job. You know, is there anything you would particularly like to accomplish in the job you have now? Is there anything I can do? Is there anyone I can introduce you to? Is there anything I may have learned along the way that could be helpful? You can be 40 years younger than somebody, and you can be helpful to them, because trust me, there's a lot you know that they do not know and don't understand. So getting active and asking that question, how can I help? How can I be of service? That is how you demonstrate your leadership from day one at the age of 21 when you just got out of school.
I could talk to you all day, Sally. Thank you for that. Your latest book is Rising Together. You can buy that wherever you like to buy your books. We're dropping the link in the chat. Make sure that you share it, tell a friend. Before I let you go, Sally, I just want to give you your flowers again, because I don't know if you remember this, but many years ago, we were introduced. I had just signed with Seal Press, Hachette. We were introduced, and it was a very new world for me. I had never written a book, and you are so successful in the space as an author, and it was just I was just like in a state of confusion, and you took time to answer some questions for me and offer support, and I will never ever forget it as long as I live. And I just want to say thank you for I'm sure you get approached by a whole lot of people all the time, and it just meant so much to me for you to take that time and to stay connected and allow me to lend support to your latest book. You just don't know how much that meant to me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Minda. And it's wonderful to see your success as you've grown through the years. It's a real joy.
Now, I won't cry on Secure the Seat, but thank you so much, Sally. But it's a pleasure. Everybody go out and get all of Sally's books, support her, hire her, work with her, and tell your colleagues about the work that she's doing, because we all need it to be able to continue rising together. So thank you so much, Sally.
My pleasure, Minda. Love working with you.
All right. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Oh, that was such a great conversation. Really appreciate that. Make sure that you get the book. I know that you were taking notes. Tag somebody in LinkedIn, share the link after the fact. All of our shows are recorded and we place them on YouTube. So make sure that you share that. Gonna bring Mike up so that we can do our new month affirmation and then close out for the week. So again, thank you all for taking time to join us today. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, Minda, how you doing?
Great episode, right?
Amazing insight by Sally. Amazing insight by you. That was an amazing episode. I really enjoyed.
I know, I'm so fired up. What is our affirmation for the month of May?
Yes. So our affirmation last month for April was, I value and hold to the relationship with myself. And this is a follow-up affirmation for the month of May. It says, I love the way I always take care of myself. I believe it's important to speak good to ourselves and appreciate ourselves and appreciate the relationship we have with ourselves and appreciate the affirmations we say to ourselves. Because if we're waiting on someone else to speak kindly to us, we may be sad our entire lives. Something may go wrong every day in our lives, and we have to learn to speak well to ourselves. So again, our May affirmation is, I love the way I always take care of myself. And it's important to take care of ourselves as well as the people who love us around us. So that's our May affirmation, Minda.
I love that so much. And it's building off of just the work that we've been doing since the top of the year, building on those affirmations. And even if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I take poor care of myself, change the narrative today. I love how I'm taking care of myself, because I don't know if you ever saw this, Mike, or any of our squad members, but there's this like video of Snoop Dogg, and he's I don't know if he's at a comedy roast or something like that. And he gets up to the mic and he says, I'd like to thank my success to me. I'd like to thank all the things that I have to me. I want to thank myself. And sometimes we don't thank ourselves. We thank ourselves for taking care of us. We wake up in the mornings, we nourish ourselves, we tell ourselves good things. So give yourself that praise. You do a good job. If you haven't been, you get a chance to do it right now. Right, Mike?
That's it, Minda. It's time to start. If you haven't already, it's time to start. Let's do it.
Period. All right. Listen, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was just really a pleasure having Sally on the show today. Make sure that you purchase all the books, but this current one, Rising Together, because God knows we need that in the workplace. Also, if you need more affirmations, we're going to put Mike's information along the bottom, because he has a whole year's worth of affirmations. We also have some really cool things coming down the pipeline for you. Make sure that you go to my LinkedIn page, hit follow if you're not, and follow Mike too, and check out what our new book club read is for the month of May. So if you haven't been joining us, make sure you do that. And then we have some really cool stuff. I know many of you always tag me or message me and ask me, when are you bringing back the Secure the Seat Writers Retreat? Well, we have a couple things we're rolling out this summer, and I'm really excited to share them with you. But the retreat is coming back. So start saving your coins, get your notebooks ready. We are going to get back into writing. And then I have some special information that we're going to be sharing later in the year about the Ascend Leadership Society. So more coming on that. But listen, we still got a lot left in the year, y'all. And it's all gas, no break. And I love the way, how is Mike, finish it off? I love the way.
That's it. That's it. I love the way I always take care of myself.
Yes. So let's do that today. And we will see you next week on Secure the Seat. Keep securing your seat.